in flames when firefighters arrived, and there wasn't much they could do to stop the fire from spreading. Action News reporter Gemma Eisworth has more.
The Harborcreek Fire Department was called to the Harbor House shortly after 2 this morning.
Upon arrival, had a structure totally involved and immediately called backup units from other companies.
Within an hour, 6 more fire companies were on the scene, battling the flames that tore through the dining complex, through a 2.5-story wing of the building, and then through the roof.
It appears the fire started in the west side of the building in the banquet room area.
Because of where the fire started, firefighters didn't have much of a chance to knock it down fast.
Because the banquet room area had a cathedral-type ceiling, it was a large open area which was conducive to a rapid fire spread.
As for the cause,
there's nothing suspicious about the fire. It would probably have been caused by either the heating system or an electrical malfunction, and I can't determine that based on what is left of that building.
Jim Gelsey has owned the Harbor House since 1980. Gelsey catered more than 300 parties last year, and he had at least one party booked for every single Saturday of 1988. 5 people will be out of work, at least for the time being. Gelsey isn't sure yet whether or not he wants to rebuild.
I really don't know yet. We're waiting for the insurance adjusters to make the decisions on what's going to have to be done to the building and stuff. But it looks like a while to rebuild.
Any idea what the loss was?
I have no idea yet, but it's totaled. I mean, there's nothing savable except for, I just found the filing cabinets were in good shape, which is lucky for me. But other than that, everything else is destroyed. There's nothing.
In Harborcreek, Gemma Eisworth, Jet TV Action News.
Fire destroyed at the popular Harborcreek Banquet Hall. Newswatch reporter Diana Pilatus has more.
There's not much left of the Harbor House in Harborcreek today, as fire destroyed the banquet and catering service early this morning. About 2 a.m., the 2 tenants who lived here, one a volunteer fireman with Harborcreek, heard the fire alarm and called for help. Both tenants escaped injury. By the time owner Jim Gelsey got there, his business was in flames.
I found out at about 3 o'clock in the morning when the lady that lived on the 3rd floor called me and told me the place was on fire, and that her and the man that lives on the 2nd floor got out okay, and that the place was on fire.
Volunteer firemen from 7 companies battled the fire and the freezing temperatures.
Sub-zero temperatures presented some problem, freezing and everything, freezing of equipment, hose lines and so forth.
And those freezing temperatures caused more problems when nearly 8 inches of ice covered Route 20. The street was closed most of this morning for PennDOT to work on it. Gelsey says this Harborcreek landmark was built in 1867. It was a popular hangout for kids in the 1950s, and since he bought it in 1980, more than 300 parties a year have been held here, including a New Year's Eve party planned for tomorrow night.
I really don't know what I'm going to do yet. I have a lot of parties contracted out. I have to regroup and then find out what I'm going to do. I just don't know right now.
Gelsey says the damage may cost more than $300,000. Although the exact cause isn't known, Fire Marshal Jim Sheelatz believes the fire may have started on the west side of the building. His investigation will continue. Diana Pilatus, Newswatch 35.
Reports from the Harbor House on Route 20.
The fire reduced the longtime party spot to rubble. And when Fire Marshal Jim Sheelatz of the Pennsylvania State Police began his investigation in late morning, there was little more but charred ruins and debris. The Harbor House has stood at its Buffalo Road location since the late 1860s. Owner Jim Gelsey took it over in 1980 and turned it into what he calls a working man's banquet hall.
Well, this used to be like the old hangout, the Happy Days type of place. It was called the Harbor, and we took it over in 1980 and we changed it into a banquet catering hall. And we are doing a lot of parties, and I do have a lot of them contracted out. Right now, I just don't know what we're going to do with them. But
Gelsey and his staff hosted 300 parties and receptions a year, 2 every Saturday and Sunday, and every weekend in the new year was booked. Gelsey credits an interconnecting fire alarm system with a safe exit of 2 tenants on the 2nd and 3rd floors. When one alarm went off, they all went off.
Tenant on the 3rd floor called me once she was alerted to the fire. She called me. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. She just told me the place was on fire and that her and the other tenant got out all right.
The fire was first reported at 2:25 a.m., and 7 fire companies responded to the alarms that followed. 75 to 100 men with 10 engines, 5 tankers, 2 ladder trucks, and 4 ambulances were on the scene by 3 o'clock when Gelsey arrived and found his business totally engulfed. Water pressure was a problem, and one nearby pond was pumped dry, but the firemen had the blaze under control by shortly before 5. Route 20 was blocked by the fire companies and their equipment until nearly 11 a.m. Gelsey says he's insured, but doubts he'll get back what he's invested. Fire Marshal Sheelatz tells News Center 12 that the extent of the damage may prevent a clear ruling on the cause, but nothing appeared unusual at the outset of his investigation. He did say the fire probably started in the West Wing and that there are 3 gas heaters and electricity that are possible initiators. Meanwhile, Gelsey ponders the new year filled with lost bookings.
It wiped me out completely.
In Harborcreek, Bill Knupp, News Center.